Understanding this key element of the Exodus story will completely change the way you viewed the 10 plagues in Egypt. Hey guys, I'm Brad. Mythology is my passion. I'm a PhD candidate, and in this video, we're discussing plagues 4 through 6. So here we go. Now, first up is the plague of flies, but more specifically, this is the Hebrew word arov, which is commonly understood as a stinging fly or perhaps a mosquito. And these stinging flies swarm throughout Egypt. But during this plague, God distinguishes the Egyptians and the Israelites. This isn't just a nuisance, it's a sign that Yahweh favors his people. And this plague is closely linked to the third plague of gnats, because the flies, just like the gnats, create an environment of ritual impurity for the Egyptian priests, and specifically for Pharaoh's chief priests that we discussed in the last video on plagues 1 through 3. I'll link an article in the description if you're interested in the etymology and linguistic connections. But these chief priests are supposed to maintain ceremonial cleanliness to uphold Ma'at, or the cosmic order, and they suddenly can't do their jobs because the priests can no longer serve their gods, offer sacrifices, or perform any other miracles necessary for the upkeep of Egyptian religion. And in case you missed the video on plagues 1 through 3, here's a quote from the Greek historian Herodotus regarding the Egyptian priests. He said, "There, meaning Egypt's, priests shave the whole body every other day, so that no lice or anything else foul may infest them as they attend upon the gods." And as Egyptologists Dimitri and Christine Meeks noted in their work, Daily Life of the Egyptian Gods, one major ritual was the morning service in the temple, which Egyptians considered to be the home of the god. Priests prepared offerings for the gods and rendered service to the religious statue by washing it, anointing it with oil, and perfuming it. The god would be given a change of clothes. The priests then presented their offerings for the god's consumption. And so what this plague of flies does is render the entire Egyptian religious system inoperable. And Exodus 8:24 states that throughout all the land of Egypt, the land was ruined by swarms of flies. Therefore, what we have here is a direct attack on their religious system. And the message is clear. Yahweh, the God of the Hebrews, his authority over creation is unmatched, and the Egyptian priests are powerless to maintain that order. And this pattern continues in the 5th plague, except this time, it's a direct attack on the Egyptian gods. God warns of a devastating plague on Egypt's livestock or domesticated animals, but declares that the livestock of the Hebrews will be untouched. And this is exactly what happens. The domesticated animals of the Egyptians died, while those of the Hebrews remained untouched. And this is important because these animals provided essential, daily provisions such as food, milk, clothing, transportation, etc. But this is more than economic sabotage. This hits a major aspect of Egyptian religion, specifically regarding the sacred bull cults throughout the land. Because by wiping out the livestock, the God of the Hebrews strikes at the heart of Egypt's agricultural and fertility beliefs. Because the ancient Egyptians worshipped and viewed the bull as a symbol of fertility, strength, and agriculture. And to put it lightly, in terms of fertility, the bull was symbolic of planting the seed. And there were several bull cults throughout Egypt, as bulls were understood to be the embodiments of the Egyptians' god Ta and Ra, or Re. But perhaps none of these bull cults were more important than that of Apis, who had no shortage of descriptions, which among these included a black bull with special white markings, as well as a man with a bull's head. Now in Memphis, Egypt, not Tennessee, a live Apis bull lived in luxury and was worshipped at the temple. And this Apis bull was viewed as the embodiment of Ta while alive and Osiris upon death. And this bull was so sacred that it was mummified upon its death. So when this plague of the death of the domesticated animals occurs, it's a powerful demonstration that once again, Yahweh, the God of the Hebrews, has command over all fertility and sustenance, further undermining the authority of Egypt's gods. And furthermore, Pharaoh, who was viewed as Horus incarnate, can't restore Ma'at or order, something previously mentioned in the video on plagues 1 through 3 that he, as well as his chief priests, were supposed to be able to do. And the Egyptians expected them to be able to do so. And speaking of the chief priests of Pharaoh, they are one of the targets in the 6th plague. And this is the plague of boils. And while this plague only gets 4 verses, nearly all members of Egyptian society and religion are affected by this plague. Moses throws handfuls of soot into the air in the presence of Pharaoh, causing painful boils to break out on the Egyptian people and their animals throughout Egypt, as well as Pharaoh's chief priests, who at this point are unable to, quote, stand before Moses. But this isn't just physical suffering. Boils on the chief priests is a major point of emphasis in this story, because the chief priests were able to replicate plagues 1 and 2, that was turning the Nile into blood, as well as the plague of frogs, and they tried but could not replicate the third plague, and that was the plague of gnats. But now they cannot even stand before Moses, who is God's chosen messenger. And this is their last apparent throughout the plagues. It shows their utter defeat. They are powerless before the God of the Hebrews. They cannot assist Pharaoh in restoring Ma'at or order, which is a big deal because they were thought to possess knowledge that not even Pharaoh himself had. And so this sixth plague of boils eliminates the chief priests from the fight. But it may be more than just the Egyptian people and the beasts of the field and the chief priests as well as Pharaoh who are a target for this plague. It may yet again be another demonstration of Yahweh, the God of the Hebrews, showing that his power extends over all the Egyptian gods. And in this plague of boils, the deity Sekhmet is possibly the target. She was a goddess whose dual nature included a warlike, bloodthirsty persona who is said to breathe fire upon Pharaoh's enemies, as well as a deity that also brought pestilence. However, she was also said to ward off pestilence. And the priests of Sekhmet were one of the oldest medical societies in antiquity. This included both doctors as well as veterinary surgeons. And Sekhmet was depicted as a female with the head of a lioness. And during this plague of boils, Sekhmet is unable to prevent the affliction of boils brought upon the Egyptians by the God of the Hebrews. And so as we've seen in plagues 4 and 5, as well as plagues 1 and 3 in the previous video, the God of the Hebrews, Yahweh, is once again demonstrating his authority over the entire domain of Egyptian society and religion. And whether a person was an Egyptian or a Hebrew at this point in time in the story, the message is very clear. The God of the Hebrews is wreaking havoc upon all of Egypt. And the chief priests, Pharaoh, as well as the gods and goddesses of Egypt, can do nothing to ward off these catastrophes. And so as we've seen, these plagues weren't random acts of destruction. Each one was a calculated challenge to Egypt's gods and religious order, exposing their inability to protect and provide for their people. And if you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, and comment below. And be sure to check out these videos that YouTube thinks you're going to like. And make sure you catch the follow-up of this video that is going to deal with plagues 7 through 9. Thanks so much.